anytime you get a big old dose of tyranny, your first move is to resist it.
As far as I'm concerned, the more they attack us, the more I know that we're on the right track to exposing, whatever they're trying to cover up.
I am sick and tired of listening to your.
Finally, the schools told me it was the Rancho document that had been put out by Shasta County Health, and that is what they were required to follow, was the Rancho document.
It doesn't get more grassroots than what we're doing in this room. Every single one of you has made a difference, and you will continue to make a difference. We will restore Shasta County.
It's like we're backed up to a cliff right now. You just can't back up forever. And so it's time now, to dig our heels in and fight.
Today, one man to the other. Mr. Modi, I'm asking you to step down.
World getting crazy, baby, chill. Don't medicate, just meditate. You waking up now, well, baby, you hella late. Educate, look at what's going on, let it resonate, accelerate. Find your inner hunger like you never ate. Agenda is to push the hate, separate and segregate. Don't celebrate quite yet, the storm is coming, Q, for heaven's sake. Violence that they demonstrate, instigate and penetrate. The values of our country and our God is what they desecrate. My fighters ain't no featherweight, pulling out the seams of the fabric that they fabricate. They feed us lies, manipulate, intimidate through fear and force, forcing us to sit and wait till we come together, congregate, and then we liberate. Praying that you give me strength to find some love amongst the hate. Marching on these streets of blood till I see the golden gates. Troubadour and troubled souls, one of God's servants. Blades out, cut the grass till we see the serpent.
One day I hope you see the truth. This puppet show stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
Good day, everybody. I want to preface everything that's going to take place in this live with a little bit of a warning. Going to be discussing some things that are going to anger a lot of people, and I hope it surely does anger you to at least action. For those that might be watching on YouTube, I'm going to cut the feed just before the end of the show in order to show a video to the rest of the group, because I know that YouTube will take it down and hence delete my channel. So just so you know, if you ever want to catch that video, you'll have to see it on Rumble, or at least that portion of the video, because it is hard to watch, but I don't think it's set in for most people how serious this nonsense that's going on with this president is. I want to thank those that are on today. I don't anticipate a very large crowd because, as usual, Facebook knows how to limit my reach. So does YouTube. And so it is the way it is. For those who are on, please like, share. Let's get some people in front of this information. Secondly, if you believe that somehow this issue with Afghanistan is localized to just Afghanistan, and it's just poor planning on Joe Biden's end, you really have no concept of what these warmongers do. These warmongers are the worst of human beings. They have the exact same procedure for every time they want to do something to destroy what's currently being enacted in America. If they want to bring America down, they want to bring a country down, they have the exact same mindset. They do it the exact same way every stinking time. If you want to bring their agenda to light, this is what you look for. And you can go back, and I mean both Republican and Democrat, all who are warmongers do the exact same thing. Hang on a second. They all do the same thing. They kill a country by destroying it from the inside. Then they create a vacuum in that place. They allow certain things to take place, either by removal, by bombing, or by allowing some other entity to take over. And when they create that vacuum, they create another war situation in that region. In this situation, they put the Taliban, who just happened to meet with China, the largest enemy in the world today. They have created that vacuum for ISIS to re-emerge. They are creating a vortex of terrorist activity in the Middle East again to promote another war that they will eventually show up and say in the next couple of years. Watch it. They will bring forward another reason to go get some other regime to start a whole nother war in the Middle East. This nonsense he's talking about, I just want my troops home. If you really wanted your troops home, you would have followed the way that President Trump had laid out. It really is that simple, but you didn't, because you don't want peace over there. Your puppet masters have an agenda and you are fulfilling it for them, Mr. Biden. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Every time this fool is asked about what happened in Afghanistan, he gives this stupid look on his face, this clearly mentally vacant answer. No expression of emotion about what took place. He doesn't care about anybody that died over there. He doesn't care about the service members that died over there. None of it. He doesn't care, because he planned it. This is by design. Him and his handlers all planned. It is ridiculous. He doesn't even want to take questions about the most egregious poll that we've ever done. You've left American citizens to flounder for themselves. You have left billions of dollars of American equipment for the Taliban to get a hold of. And you see no problem with that whatsoever. That is completely within the realm of being okay with this clown. And he is being covered by the media. This man is responsible for at least 13 deaths of Americans. soldiers, countless Christians over there, and countless Afghani people who have helped the U.S. military. I mean, you've all seen the video of people hanging onto the airplanes while it was flying, right? Falling off of it. Yet he won't take questions. And when he does, it's this ridiculous, well, it's Trump's fault. Well, you know, the previous administration, well, you know, I'm going to play something for you here. When watching servicemen's bodies being brought off the plane, this is Joe Biden. This is Joe Biden. Just watch. Literally, watch. He's more concerned about what time it is and where he's got to be next. He could care less about what's going on here. He could care less. Sorry, he couldn't care less. This is absolutely boring him because he has other places to be. He has no concept of what's going on right now. You want to walk? Walk, sir. Walk. Yes, now to walk? Yes, walk now. Walk now. Turn left, sir. Turn left. Do we not see what's going on here? Are we this blind about it? Are we this blind? So not only did he not care about the bodies coming off the plane, he had places to be. In case you ever wondered whether or not, this is the part that when I tell you this, whether or not this man cares about any people that die over there. If you had questions, listen to the question that's going to get asked of him.
There are reports that U.S. officials provided the Taliban with names of Americans and Afghan officials to evacuate. Were you aware of that? Did that happen? And then, sir, did you personally reject a recommendation to hold or to recapture Bagram Air Force Base?
Here's what I've done let's answer the last question first. On the tactical questions of how to conduct an evacuation or a war, I gather up all the major military personnel that are in Afghanistan, the commanders, as well as the Pentagon. And I ask for their best military judgment. What would be the most efficient way to accomplish the mission? They concluded, the military, that Bagram was not.
Notice how he's not answering the question yet, right?
It's much wiser to focus on Kabul. And so I followed that recommendation. With regard to, there are certain circumstances where we've gotten information, and quite frankly, sometimes from some of you saying you know of such and such a group of people are trying to get out, they're on a bus, they're moving from other people. And this is their location. And there have been occasions when our military has contacted their military counterparts in the Taliban and said, this, for example, this bus is coming through with X number of people on it, made up of following group of people. We want you to let that bus or that group through. So yes, there have been occasions like that. And to the best of my knowledge, in those cases, the bulk of that has occurred. They've been let through.
So he's saying he gives the Taliban a kill list. You're expecting me to believe that you have more faith in the Taliban going through with their words than you have faith in American citizens who went to protest on the first month of this year. You trust the Taliban more than you trust American citizens who were fed up and went to protest. You tell them how many are on a bus coming from wherever. You tell them who. What is the purpose of giving that information to anyone outside of U.S. military? Much less to the Taliban. If I know that my enemy hates me, they hate me, they hate my family, I'm in the region where they are, I have military backing, I will not give that idiot that hates me information to make it easier for him to find me. It is just as dumb as this mandate crap that's going on. You do the exact opposite of what you want to have done in the interest of safety. And then he lies. You could catch him in a verbal lie on multiple occasions, and the media just lets it coast on by. They accuse President Trump of multiple lies. He's a 4,000 lies a day. This man is always lying, always lying. We can literally, which is what I'm going to show you now. I'm going to literally show you. This is old Dementia Joe.
Is a Taliban takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No, it is not. Because you have the Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world, and an air force against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable.
It is not inevitable that they would take over. Because they have soldiers, trained soldiers, some of the best trained soldiers on earth. Right? The best trained soldiers on earth. Meanwhile, he also has a press briefing like this.
The events we're seeing now are sadly proof that no amount of military force would ever deliver a stable, united, secure Afghanistan, as known in history as the graveyard of empires. What's happening now could just as easily happen 5 years ago or 15 years in the future. You have to be honest.
Oh, you do? You have to be honest, right? You have to be honest. It is not inevitable that they would fall. This is the graveyard of empires. We always knew that they were unstable. Nothing we could do could make it stable. They have some of the best trained soldiers out there. We don't have to worry about them. This was inevitable. It wasn't inevitable, but it was inevitable. We couldn't predict this, but we can predict this. No amount of training. They have the best training in the world. Joe Biden. Don't worry about Afghanistan. We have this covered. They have it covered. They'll fight. We knew they would never do it. It's the graveyard of empires. I won't risk troops for that. Well, which is it, Mr. Biden? Which is it? Which is it? Then, after being caught looking at his watch because it's so boring to be there at this funeral, he recalls meeting families.
Well, folks, got your hands full, but you've done an incredible job so far in prep for this. Jill and I are just getting back from Dover Air Force Base up in my home state.
No emotion.
Where we met with the families of 13 fallen heroes in Afghanistan who lost their lives in the service of our country. And while we're praying for the best in Louisiana, let's keep them in our prayers as well.
Okay. Goes to a press conference about the hurricane. Brings up the soldiers and the fallen from Afghanistan. I want you to remember, he brings that up. He does. So now that he brings it up, someone decides to ask him.
My grandfather would say, the grace of God and the goodwill of the neighbors. And by the way, look out for your neighbors. If you're in the region, look out for your neighbors. So thank you very much, and thank you, Commissioner. I really think it all works. I'm not supposed to take any.
I'm not supposed to take questions. What do you mean you're not supposed to take questions? You're the president of the United States, you say, right? I'm pretty sure that when people have questions about such drastic, crazy things going on that we had a hand in, you should probably answer the question.
Questions, but go ahead. I'm not going to answer Afghanistan now. Okay.
I'm not going to answer Afghanistan now. Looks for his handlers. Where are my people? Carry me away from this nonsense.
Really and truly, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know there's no group of Americans know how dangerous it is more than you guys do. So let's stay at it to the very end. I know you will. You've done everything you can to help prepare these folks, but I tell you what, it's I think they're going to be taking a look at additional levee systems.
This man's a complete fool. I have to make sure I can answer questions, if I can take questions. Who needs to ask my questions? I just need to be told at every turn what to do. Brings up the soldiers in Afghanistan, gets asked about Afghanistan. I'm not taking no questions about Afghanistan. I don't need to answer that one. People, this man is a threat. He is a threat. Period. Like literally, period. He is a threat. To America, to the world, he is a threat. So, let him incriminate himself now. I'm going to let him do it. This is his interview. Listen carefully to this nonsense.
Mistakes. Back in July, you said a Taliban takeover was highly unlikely. Was the intelligence wrong, or did you downplay it?
There was no consensus. If you go back and look at the intelligence reports, they said that it was more likely to be sometime.
Hold on. There was no okay, again with the lies, right? There was no consensus. It's not inevitable. You make the statement, and now you're saying that there was no reason for me to think that, but I thought that. Continue, Mr. Biden.
Time by the end of the year.
You didn't put a timeline out when you said it was highly unlikely. You just said flat out it's highly unlikely the Taliban would take over.
Yeah. Well, the question was whether or not the idea that the Taliban would take over was premised on the notion that somehow the 300,000 troops we had trained and equipped was going to just collapse. They were going to give up. I don't think anybody anticipated that.
Senator McConnell?
No, you did. You did anticipate that because you later on said that it was the graveyard of empires. You yourself in front of cameras admitted that there was no way you could avoid this 5 years ago or 15 years in the future because of what type of people were in Afghanistan.
McConnell said it was predictable the Taliban was going to take over.
Well, by the end of the year, it said that was a real possibility. But no one said it was going to take over then when it was being asked.
When you look at what's happened over the last week, was it a failure of intelligence, planning,
Here it goes,
execution, or judgment?
Look, I don't think it was a failure. Look, it was a simple choice, George. When the Taliban, let me put it another way. When you had the government of Afghanistan, the leader of that government getting in a plane and taking off and going to another country, when you saw the significant collapse of the Afghan troops we had trained, up to 300,000 of them, just leaving their equipment and taking off. That was, that's what happened. That's simply what happened. So the question was, in the beginning, the threshold question was, do we commit to leave within the time frame was set? We extended it to September 1st. Or do we put significantly more troops in?
He doesn't even know what the question is anymore. He is so emphatic on lying to try and cover all of this mess up. You see what? Well, the question wasn't the question. The question about the withdrawal of the people. You see what? Okay, so let's back this up. And the question was, what we did was correct. Mr. Biden, you didn't answer the question. Well, by the end, you never said by the end of the year. Well, what I meant was by the end of the year, because that's what intelligence says. But did you have intelligence? Well, we didn't have intelligence that told us that. So you're saying that you had intelligence or you didn't have intelligence? Well, by the end of what happened? Okay, so what you have to do is when you look at it, that's how we answer his questions. This fool doesn't know his from a hole in the ground. This is insane. The president of Afghanistan, the leader, decided to leave after American troops pulled and the influx of the Taliban started to come in. You said you trusted the Afghani military to do what they need to do. Now you're saying they folded like a deck of cards. No one expected them to fold like a deck of cards, while you just said that they fold like a deck of cards, but you knew that that's what was going to happen, which is why I didn't put any more troops on the ground, because I knew they were going to fold. Which is it?
People say, well, you had 2,500 folks in there and nothing was happening. You know, there wasn't any war. But guess what? The fact was that the reason it wasn't happening is the last president negotiated a year earlier that he'd be out by May 1st and that in return there'd be no attack on American forces. That's
so instead of keeping that intact, now he's just admitting that President Trump knew how to keep the troops safe and American citizens safe and Afghanistan people that helped us, the Afghan people that helped us. He knew how to keep them safe. You're telling me you couldn't do the same? President Trump had a withdrawal plans of citizens first, aid second, military last. Because you're going to need the military there to keep everybody safe until they left. He will refuse to admit that he was the reason that we have dead soldiers now. But he will admit that President Trump kept them safe.
It was done. That's why nothing was happening. But the idea, if I had said, I had a simple choice. If I had said, we're going to stay, then we better be prepared to put a whole hell of a lot more troops in.
But your top military advisors warned against withdrawing on this timeline. They wanted you to keep about 2,500 troops.
No, they didn't. It was split. That wasn't true. That wasn't true.
They didn't tell you that they wanted troops to stay?
No, not in terms of whether we were going to get out in a time frame, all troops.
You remember when you're a kid and you did something wrong? You did something wrong and you get caught, kinda. So you make up a story. So you make up the story, right? And now, going forward, you have to maintain the timeline of that story to keep from getting your behind whooped. So you start your story. Then your mom starts to pressure you to make the story make sense. But then you say something that goes contrary to what you started your story as. So now you're trying to remember what exactly you told mom the day before about this so-called story, and you can't remember the story. So now you start making new stuff up. And she just happens to say something that triggers a little bit of what you might have said yesterday. And then you bring that in, but then you realize, wait, but that wasn't the context what I told mom. So now your whole story is completely squashed. You have no clue what you're talking about. That is Joe Biden. That is Joe Biden.
They didn't argue against that.
So no one told, your military advisors did not tell you, no, we should just keep 2,500 troops. It's been a stable situation for the last several years. We can do that. We can continue to do that.
No, no one said that to me that I can recall. Look, George, the reason
he says that, then he tries to justify the answer, knowing that it'll come back, that he's lying. That's the only reason why he's saying, look, George, okay. You remember Joe Pesci? Okay, so you know Joe Pesci is notorious for playing Italian mobster type characters, right? In Lethal Weapon, my favorite quirk that he has is okay. That's Joe Biden right now. Okay, George, okay. Listen, okay, listen.
The reason why it's been stable for a year is because the last president said, we're leaving. And here's the deal I want to make with you, Taliban. We're agreeing to leave if you agree not to attack us between now and the time we leave on May the 1st.
Exactly. So why would you pull your troops straight out and leave American citizens there? Like, if you know this, you have been in power since March. You knew the deadline. All you had to do was start pulling American citizens first, the aides second, then pull your troops on that deadline. You have now strategically taken out all the people that need not be left behind or killed. Plain and simple. But in the same way, you want to tell me that you trust the Taliban to do the right thing. If you're trusting the Taliban with names to do the right thing, then you can easily tell them, look, we need assurances to get our people. But they won't do that. Why? Because they're not trustworthy people. But you're willing to hand them American names? Are you insane? That's an answer, not a question.
Less than 2 months after I was elected to office, I was sworn in, all of a sudden, I have a May 1 deadline. I got one of two choices. Do I say we're staying? And do you think we would not have to put a hell of a lot more troops? We had tens of thousands of troops there before. Tens of thousands. Do you think we would have just said, no problem? Don't worry about it. We're not going to attack anybody. We're okay. In the meantime, the Taliban was taking territory all throughout the country in the north and down in the south in the Pashtun area.
So would you have withdrawn troops like this even if President Trump had not made that deal with the Taliban?
I would have tried to figure out how to withdraw those troops, yes. Because look, George, there is no good time to leave Afghanistan. 15 years ago would have been a problem. 15 years from now. The basic choice is, am I going to send your sons and your daughters to war in Afghanistan in perpetuity? No one can name for me a time when this would end. And what constitutes defeat of the Taliban? What constitutes defeat? Would we have left then? Let's say they surrender like before. Okay. Do we leave then? Do you think anybody, the same people who think we should stay, would have said, no, good time to go? We spent over $1 trillion, George. 20 years. There was no good time to leave.
But if there's no good time, if you know you're going to have to leave eventually, why not have everything in place to make sure Americans to get out?
Thank you.
Make sure our Afghan allies get out.
Thank you.
So we don't have these chaotic scenes
Thank you.
in Kabul.
Why?
Number one, as you know, the intelligence community did not say back in June or July that, in fact, this was going to collapse like it did.
What? Okay, make up your mind, Joe. Make up your mind. You're telling me that you're okay pulling troops. You don't trust the Taliban, but you trust them to give them names. You didn't have intelligence, but you had intelligence enough to tell them that it wasn't going to be before the end of the year. You know that they have well-trained troops, but they don't have well-trained troops. We need to get our soldiers out of there. There was a deal in place. I had time, but I didn't use the time. Why didn't you get the Americans out first? Well, what you see was we didn't know. But did you know? Yeah, we did know. You know who the Taliban was, right? Yeah. You can't trust them? No. Why didn't you get American citizens out first? Well, we didn't have the intelligence.
Number one.
They thought the Taliban would take over, but not this quickly.
But not this quickly, not even close. We had already issued several thousand passports to the SIVs, the people, the translators, when I came into office, before we had negotiated getting out at the end of August. Secondly, we're in a position where what we did was
So hold on. You said there was a May deadline, and you couldn't negotiate with them. Was I supposed to negotiate staying? Then you tell me that you had a negotiation in place for August, which pushed it further forward, but you didn't have time to get everybody out, even though you said you gave them visas. I smell a lie here, Joe. I honestly smell a lie. I smell a lie, Joe. You did nothing of the sort for the American people that were still in Afghanistan when you decided to pull your troops, because you didn't care. You knew it would create a vacuum. You knew it would create death and destruction in Afghanistan. You knew you had to hand Afghanistan over to the Taliban because they had made deals with China prior to any of this. You already met with China and told them what you were going to do in Afghanistan. You know what the territory being lost there would do. You also know it would do. I'm done listening to him, by the way. You also knew what it would do to the American economy when you have this type of turmoil going on, because the rest of the world is watching now. If you were not convinced that this thing that they call a man was intent on destroying America, I don't know how I'm going to help you. I just don't know how I'm going to help you. It is absolutely insane to me. Absolutely insane. You want to know the result of him leaving Afghanistan so prematurely and abruptly with no plan of action? You want to know the result? Huh. The result is detrimental. It really is. And I'm trying my best here to see how I'm going to remove this portion because I need to be able to close my live off in YouTube. I don't think I can do it. I don't know that I can do it without losing my channel. Let's just say a video came across my table of the Taliban lining up soldiers and allies and shooting them in the head, about 12 of them, and then emptying their AKs on them. After all of them had fallen down, they emptied every round they had into their bodies. Videotaped it to show that is what Joe Biden left. Our Marines died for nothing. All of the soldiers that were over there died for nothing. The allies that helped us, the Christians over there are going to die. Joe Biden. Joe Biden. Build back better. Build back better. This man is a disgrace. He's a worthless human being. I don't care if he has dementia. I really don't care. He was always worthless. He was always a liar. He was always deceitful. He was always bought and paid for. This is more about America than you might think. This is more than you might think. I'm going to flash something and I'll take it right back down. May or may not lose my channel. We'll see. That was the lineup. You can pause it later and look at it. This is the lineup. They lined them all up in the square and they opened fire on them and recorded all of it. These are the people that he decided to give American names to for safe passage. You give names, locations, bus identification, how many, what they did to those people for safe passage. When I tell you this pisses me off to no ends, I'm not joking. The Taliban now has possession of tanks, Humvees, rocket launchers, ammunition, planes, all American equipment at their disposal to not just do what they will over there, but to do what they will over here. Anyway, this is the current person in charge of killing off the rest of America. I will be doing a breakdown of the CDC's, the FDA's approval of the so-called HVAC lesson plan. In case you guys don't know what the HVAC lesson plan is, I'm pretty sure if I said FDA, CDC by mistake, you should understand what the HVAC lesson plan is. It's code word so I don't get taken down anymore. I'll be breaking down what is actually in this so-called approval, because it's not an approval. You are test subjects. They're going to be testing to see whether or not the HVAC system works in your house. I mean, it could be blowing mold and everything else through your house, but who cares? We have to make sure, and you're the test subject. So you can go ahead and put the HVAC system in your house. I like free air. I'm just going to open my windows. Probably an intake fan, but definitely going to open my back door and the front door so I can have a free flow of air through. I'm not doing the HVAC system in my house. Heat pump, nothing. Central air, nothing. I'm not doing any one of those. You could be a baseboard, in window, central, heat pump. None of those I'm taking. None of them are getting put in my house. I'm going to stick with whatever the house came with. Because my house actually came with some little things on the front door that open out the window, outside doors with mesh on it to keep insects out. I'm going to trust those things, and I'm going to trust my outside to blow what needs to be blown, and I'm going to trust my ability to clean my house. So I'm not doing the HVAC system. Hopefully that was code enough for everybody. Yes, Obama did do the same thing with SEAL Team 6. They have a track record. But I will be breaking down all of that in my next live, which is tomorrow. Maybe even this evening. I don't know. But definitely tomorrow, if not this evening. I will break down exactly what's in this so-called approval, if it is such a thing, and what exactly it entails for you. Okay? So, thank you all for joining the live today. We had a fairly good crowd. A good amount came on to the YouTube channel, which was good. Fair amount on Facebook, so that's good too. And I'll keep you updated as to whether or not they take anything down. What I anticipate, though, is probably like a copyright strike from CBS or something like that. I could see that for using the Joe Biden videos. But we'll see. I already anticipate something like that anyway. But if you don't see it on YouTube, look for it on Rumble, and the whole video will be up there for sure. People, this is no time to be quiet anymore. We are past the short measures and the corner cutting. If you want to keep America the way America is supposed to be, free, sitting down ain't in the cards no more. Shutting up is not in the cards anymore. We don't have that option anymore. It is no longer time to be sitting on your butts. Say what you got to say. Do what you have to do. Fight. Because it's either you regain what's the control that they've tried to take from you, regain your freedom, or lose everything by giving them an inch. If you give these people any ground, any quarter, they'll try and run you over. There are more of us than there are of them. Remember that. So you all have a good rest of the day. I will see you either tomorrow or later today. Just keep an eye out. And yeah, Nefera, you are late. I'm done now. I am done now. But you can watch it again on Rumble, if not on YouTube. So sorry. Love you guys. And keep fighting. Keep fighting. Wisdom calls to you from the street. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.